हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी,
हरे
माता जी
कृष्णा,
सबको
हर
नमन
हर
प्रणाम।
महात्मा। थैंक यू प्रभु। हरि बोल जो रितेश प्रभु, पवन प्रभु जी, रामचंद्र प्रभु, Anandini Gopika Mataji for facilitating the Chapa this morning. Okay, let's start with our prayers. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalaakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminati Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatarine जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा. Okay, anybody would like to volunteer singing our prayer today?
I can try, Prabhu.
Amarish Prabhu, yes Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Krishna hoite chaturmukha, hoye Krishna sevanmukha, Brahma hoite naradira mati, Narada hoite vyasa, Madhava koi vyasa dasa, Purna pragya padmanabhagati Nahari madhava vansi Akshobhya paramahamsi Shishya boli angikara kore Akshobhera shishya jaya Tirtha nama parichaya Taradasi Jnana Sindhu Tore Taha hoite dayanidhi Taradasa Vidyanidhi Rajendra hoilo tahate Tahara kinkura jaya धर्मानामे परिचय परम्परा ज्ञानो भालो माते जय धर्म दासे ख्याति श्री पुरुषोत्तम जाति ताहते ब्रह्मण्य तीर्थ सूरी व्यासतीर्थतारदास लक्ष्मीपति व्यासदास ताहाते माधवेन्द्र पुरी माधवेन्द्र पुरीवर शिष्यवर श्रीश्वर नित्यानन्द श्री अद्वैत विभु ईश्वर पुरी के धन्य कोरिले श्री चैतन्य जगद्गुरु गौरमहाप्रभु महाप्रभु श्री चैतन्य राधा कृष्ण नहि अन्य रूपानुगजनिरजीवनम् विश्वम्भर प्रियङ्कार श्रीस्वरूप दामोदर श्रीगोस्वामी रूप सनातनम् रूप प्रिया महाजन जीव रघुनाथाना तार प्रिया कवि कृष्णदास कृष्णदास प्रिया वर नरोत्तमा सेवापार जारपद विश्वनाथ आशा विश्वनाथ भक्त साथ बलदेव जगन्नाथ तार प्रिय श्री भक्ति विनोद महाभागवत वर श्री गौर किशोर वर हरि भजन तेजार मोर इहार परमहंस गौरंगेर निजवंश तादेर चरणे मम गति आमी सेवा उदासीन नामे ते त्रिदंडी दीन श्री भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती श्री वर्षभा भानवीवर सदा सेव्या सेवा पर ताहार दयित दासना तार प्रधान प्रचारक श्री भक्ति वेदांत नाम पतित जनिते दोयधाम हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Amreshwaru. Very nice. Hari Bol. Shri Guru Parampara ki jai. Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai. Jagat Guru Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Hari Hari Bol. Okay, anybody else would like to read the translation?
I can read, Prabhu.
Yes, please, Mataji.
By the four-headed Brahma from the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. Devarshi Narad's understanding of this divine science was obtained from Brahma. The great sage Krishna Dvaipayan Vyasa, who was empowered to compile the Vedic literatures, became a disciple of Devarshi Narad. Sripad Madhvacharya, the founder of the Shuddhaitva school of Vedanta philosophy, who visited Vyasadeva at Badrik Ashram in the 13th century, to learn from him Vedanta philosophy, calls himself a servant of Krishna Dvaipayan Vyasa. Purna Prajna Tirth Madhava is a guru and sole refuge of Padmanabh Tirtha. The two other principal disciples of Madhava are Narhari Tirtha and Madhava Tirtha. Madhava Tirtha accepted the great Paramhamsa Akshobhya Tirtha as a disciple. The principal disciple of Akshobhya Tirtha was known as Jayatirtha. Jayatirtha's service was for his disciple Jnanasindhu. Dayanidhi received the signs of devotional service from Jnanasindhu, and the servant of Dayanidhi was Vidyanidhi, Vidyadhiraj Tirtha. Rajendra Tirtha became a disciple of Vidyadhiraj Tirtha. Rajendra Tirtha's servant was known as Jayadharma or Vijayadhwaja Tirtha. In this way, you should properly understand this disciplic succession. The great sannyasi Sri Purushottam Tirtha received his knowledge in the service of his guru, Vijayadhwaja Tirtha Jayadharma. The principal disciple of Purushottam Tirtha was Subramanya Tirtha. His servant was a great Vyasa Tirtha, Vyasaraya. Vyasa Tirtha's servant was Lakshmipati Tirtha, whose disciple was Madhavendra Puri Goswami. The chief disciple of Madhavendra Puri was Ishvara Puri, and two of his other disciples were the renowned incarnations of Godhead Sri Nityananda and Advaita Acharya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the spiritual preceptor, of all the worlds made Ishwarpuri greatly fortunate by accepting him as a spiritual master. Mahaprabhu Sri Chaitanya is non different from Sri Radha and Krishna and is the very life of those Vaishnavas who follow Sri Rupa Goswami. Sri Swarupa Damodar Goswami, Rupa Goswami, and Sanatan Goswami were the givers of great happiness to Vishwambara Sri Chaitanya. The great souls Jiva Goswami and Raghunath Das Goswami became very dear to Rupa Goswami. Jiva Goswami was a disciple of Rupa Goswami, and Raghunath Das Goswami, a disciple of Advaita Acharya's disciple Yadunandan Acharya, was accepted by Rupa and Sanatan as their third brother. Raghunath Das Goswami's beloved student was Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Krishnadas Kaviraj was an intimate friend of Lokanath Goswami. They lived together in Vrindavan and always discussed the topics of Krishna with one another. Lokanath Goswami, disciple of Gadadhar Pandit, had only one disciple whose name was Narottam Dasa. Narottam Das was always engaged in the service of his guru, and he also engaged himself in the service of his guru's intimate friend. Thus, he became very dear to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. To serve the feet of Narottam Das Thakur was the only desire of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who was the fourth Acharya in disciplic succession from Narottam Das. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was a Shiksha Guru, instructing spiritual master of Baldev Vidyabhushan, to whom he taught the precepts of Srimad Bhagavatam. Jagannath Das Babaji was a very prominent Acharya after Sri Baladev Vidyabhushan and was a beloved Shiksha Guru of Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's intimate friend and associate was the eminent Mahabhagavat Sri Gaura Kishore Das Babaji, whose sole joy was found in Hari Bhajan. These three saintly Vaishnavas are all Paramhamsas, or devotees of the highest order, and they are all part of Lord Gauranga's own spiritual family. Their holy feet are my refuge. I have no real interest in devotional services, and I am a poor and lowly Tridandi sannyasi named Sri Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. The renowned Sri Varshabhanavi Daita Dasa, the initiated name of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, is always engaged in the service of his spiritual master, Srila Gaura Kishore Das Babaji. His foremost disciple preacher is Sri A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who has spread the message of Lord Chaitanya throughout the world and is thus a reservoir of mercy and compassion for all fallen souls. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Shri Mataji. Anything you want to share on this prayer?
Yes, Prabhu, this reminds me of one Taisevani Mataji was saying about the pastime of Jagannath Das Babaji, if I'm not wrong, and correct me if I'm wrong. Like a sweeper in Vrindavan was, just sweeping, and Jagannath Das Babaji accepted roti or something from him, and then other Babajis were like, you should not, he's out for different caste or something like that. And then he explains to those Babajis that, who is more um, greater than Krishna? And then they said Radharani, and then who is more greater than Radharani, and the devotees, and so on. He said like 2-3 things, which I don't remember exactly. But then eventually he came to the most greatest was the dust of the Vraja. So then he said that dust of Vrindavan or Vraj Dham is the most prominent thing, right? So then he said that the sweeper is actually sweeping, right? So he's always in the dust of Raja. So that's the most, I mean, he has the dust of Raja all over his body and everything. So how elevated he is, So he just broke that stereotype, like you should not, about the caste and everything. So that was so, I just remembered that, and how great the acharyas are, our acharyas are, that they don't consider all these things, which some, even today, they, people are like, oh, this caste and that caste. So we should always not, the dust of the Vraj or Krishna, Radha, everything is greater than all these menial things. So, yeah, that was really heart touching when I heard that.
Cool. Yes, thank you so much for sharing. Yes, the dust of the holy dham is so pristine and so spiritual, because it is also the dust of the lotus feet of all the Vaishnavas, right? So of course, Sri Radha Krishna's lotus feet, but also all the Vaishnavas. And our endeavor, as Bhaktisiddhanta is talking about here, is he has no interest in devotion services, right? But his only desire is to treat these saintly Vaishnavas, of Lord Chaitanya's family as the topmost. So he wants to just surrender to them. So similarly, we just surrender to the holy feet, the dust of the holy feet of these Vaishnavas. Thank you for sharing that beautiful pastime. Even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed that through his actions when he was in Navadvip, and he would go to apparently so-called Shudras' homes, and he would stay there and he would eat prasadam there, just to show that somebody is not a Brahmana just by birth, right? But it is through their guna, through their qualities, and through their karma. So guna karma defines who's a Brahmana, who's a Vaishnava versus who's a Shudra, not just the birth. Okay. So on this topic of Jagannath, I was actually looking at this nice video. Since Prabhupada was in San Francisco, we will quickly play this. Since yesterday we saw Prabhupada from San Francisco. We went to India and then came back to San Francisco. This is a nice video of the first Rath Yatra in 1967, short 2-minute clip with the background from Yamuna Mataji here. So let's play this. Hold on 1 second. Let me see if I'm sharing the sound. Okay, I'm not. So let me share the sound. Okay, it should play now.
This historic footage gives us a glimpse into the first Rath Yatra celebrated in the Western world in 1967. On another track, there's a kirtan that goes with this Rath Yatra, and it was the melody that goes something like this. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And that went for hours and hours as we sang it on the cart. A few wonderful things about this Rath Yatra were that the crowd that gathered alongside of the cart, of partly hippies that knew nothing about Lord Jagannath, and partly some hippies who had tasted Krishna Prasad in our temple and sampled the nectar of the holy name in our kirtans, were very genuinely enthusiastic to celebrate this Rath Yatra. Lord Jagannath, Subhadra, and Balaram faced different directions on the cart. So no matter what side you were on, you were able to get face-to-face darshan of their lordships. There was a pastime with this cart where the engine of the flatbed truck that the deities were seated on stalled. And when we told that to Srila Prabhupada, he said that this was not uncommon, that the cart would stall, even if it was pulled by hand, and stop at various places along the route. So he was happy to see that somehow in San Francisco, without even knowing about this pastime, our cart stalled on the hill. The route was the full length from the Haight-Ashbury all the way to the sea. And when the cart arrived at the sea, there was a very wonderful kirtan on the beach.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna.
Bol. So yes, nice memories of the first Rath Yatra in San Francisco. Let's continue. So yesterday we saw Prabhupada. He was in India. He visited his god brothers, and while he was there, he was still thinking about his beloved disciples in US, as they were opening more and more centers in Boston and LA. And Yes, Prabhupada was mentioning to them that while Vrindavan is good to be in, but our real work is in the field. So Prabhupada was like Arjuna, wanting to be on the battlefield for Krishna all the time. And he was remembering his disciples, and while he was also meeting his god brothers very humbly and very lovingly. So we saw that love of Sridhar Swami Maharaj, his Prabhupada's god brothers. And many of Prabhupada's god brothers were very dear to him. And there's also one more. Bhakti Vaishnav Puri Maharaj, who Prabhupada said, is also very dear to me because he also preached in the West later on in his life. So like that. So yeah, I think yesterday he met Keshav's Bhakti Pragyana Keshav Maharaj, who was the sannyasi guru of Srila Prabhupada, Sridhar Swami Maharaj, and in Navadvip. Okay, let's come back now. So he's back in the US. He saw devotees were welcoming him at the San Francisco airport. So chapter 29. Unlimited opportunity, limited time. Mukunda Prabhu and Janaki Mataji, Gurudas Prabhu and Yamuna Mataji, Shyam Sundar Prabhu and Malati Mataji were chosen by Srila Prabhupada to go to London to preach Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada says, Kirtan must be devotional and personally trains them for several days. Preach with confidence, says Srila Prabhupada. Gave example of dance in Charlie Chaplin movie. Srila Prabhupada visited Boston, lectured at MIT, and asked, where is the department that teaches the science of soul? Srila Prabhupada loved his disciples, and this love made them to do whatever Srila Prabhupada told them to do. Srila Prabhupada had planted transcendental loving devotion service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead in their hearts. In Los Angeles, Srila Prabhupada introduced regulated deity worship and classes on nectar of devotion, which Srila Prabhupada said would be a handbook for science and practice of Bhakti Yoga. Srila Prabhupada tried his best to complete the Srimad Bhagavatam series while depending on Lord Krishna. Rakhe Krishna, Mare Krishna, Rakhe Ke. Srila Prabhupada worked tirelessly with a sense of urgency. Regarding London preaching by three couples, when no positive news came through, Srila Prabhupada advised how endurance and enthusiasm were necessary. He said, depend on Krishna and work with enthusiasm, patience, and conviction. While in New York, Srila Prabhupada said, man or woman, everyone can preach. Krishna would give intelligence. Srila Prabhupada lectured at the Ohio State University, did kirtan, and took questions. Then Srila Prabhupada went to New Vrindavan, where he wanted to develop an ideal Vedic community that was self-sufficient, producing all their own food and necessities based on simple living and high thinking. Srila Prabhupada, while leaving New Vrindavan, said all success would come by chanting Hare Krishna, engaging in deity worship, and protecting the cows. Srila Prabhupada especially loved the milk from the cows of New Vrindavan. Srila Prabhupada wrote letters daily to the three couples who were trying to preach Krishna consciousness in London, telling them Sankirtan is most important as Yuga Dharma for this age. They held a nice Krishna consciousness program in which 100 people attended, and they played Srila Prabhupada's audio speaking about the glories of chanting Hare Krishna, and it got advertised in the newspapers. They faced a lot of challenges but were working together just to please Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada went to Los Angeles from New Vrindavan and established Radha Krishna deities there. Although Sankirtana was Yoga Dharma, deity worship was also very important to render personal service to the Lord. Srila Prabhupada went to San Francisco, where Rath Yatra was about to take place, and 5,000 devotees were following the Ratha. Srila Prabhupada changed the chant from Hare Krishna to Jai Jagannath. Srila Prabhupada himself was dancing ecstatically, and crowd increased to 10,000, followed by talk on Lord Chaitanya, and ended talk with chant Hare Krishna, dance, take prasadam. Back in London, Shyam Sundar Prabhu met George Harrison from Beatles, who was interested in making a Hare Krishna Kirtan video as he was impressed with Srila Prabhupada's Hare Krishna recording. Srila Prabhupada said he would arrive in September, whether or not they had a place. Miraculously, 2 months before Srila Prabhupada's scheduled arrival, they found a place, made it suitable for Srila Prabhupada's stay with Vyasasan et al. And the recording was done with Yamuna Mataji as lead singer a month before Srila Prabhupada's arrival. The stage was set for Srila Prabhupada's arrival in London. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna. Yes, back in London, Shyam Sundar Prabhu met George Harrison from Beatles, who was interested in making a Hare Krishna Kirtan video, as he was impressed with Srila Prabhupada's Hare Krishna recording. Okay, so we'll pause here. We'll read London tomorrow. It was nice that yesterday we saw Rath Yatra. video, and Prabhupada's come back to San Francisco and preparing for the next Rath Yatra. And we saw that it was Yamuna Mataji in that audio, in that video. She was talking about that first Rath Yatra, and here again we see that she's there ready to arrive to welcome Prabhupada in London now. Okay. Anybody else would like to share anything? Any thoughts, reflections on that Rath Yatra video or what we read today? Yes. Anybody would like to say anything? No comments? Everybody's in the state of trance, looks like. Okay. Yeah, the only other thing that I was thinking is, again, all this theme that Prabhupada says again of chant, Hare Krishna, chant, dance, feast, those are the primary things, of course, chanting and taking prasadam. And of course, he's also talking about deity worship, while chanting is the Yoga Dharma, deity worship is also very important so that we can do some personal service to the lordships. And like we saw, the deities were there in San Francisco of Lord Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra Maya, and the devotees nicely worshipping them and had used those for the Rath Yatra. So the standards that Prabhupada helped establish in the beginning in 1960s, late 60s, and those standards have only grown. Like I think he was mentioning this again and again, that the standards that he set in California were like the golden standard for everybody to follow all over the ISKCON centers. And that is one thing that we see and we hear many times. And I hear from many people who are not completely like initiated in ISKCON or completely following ISKCON, but whenever devotees go to temples, people, even general mass of people, one thing that really strikes them is the high standards of deity worship that all ISKCON temples follow, which is the comment that I've heard many places, even in India, here, where anybody who goes to ISKCON temples is just mesmerized by taking darshan of the beautiful deities, very nice worship, very nice paraphernalia, decorations, and of course, so that is like, again, that's the internal mood, internal bhav of the devotees that comes out when they are personally serving the deities. I heard one time, I think it was Vajvilas Prabhu from Mumbai, disciple of His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj. He was mentioning how one Mataji in Bombay, she was so absorbed in deity worship, she would make these nice outfits for the deities every year. She would handcraft the outfit for Radha Gopinath. And just like he was a brahmachari, but he would be looking at this Mataji and how the mood that she was in every time she was be looking at the deities so lovingly, just that helped him in his journey, where he could see that how devotees are so lovingly absorbed in the mood of remembrance and completely absorbed to the seva bhav that they have for the deities. So we should never think, like we were saying the other day, and Amrind Prabhu also mentioning, like all the seva, all the services are equally important in the Lord's eyes. Nothing is insignificant or nothing is more significant. Anything that we do it with full faith, conviction, and with full love. Then yes, and that is accepted by the Lord, and ultimately that is the only goal that we all have, to develop that love of Godhead. And yes, love of Godhead is something that is easily said and achieved. But if we continue to follow the instructions of Srila Prabhupada, then be in the association of the devotees, practice bhajan kriya as prescribed, just as medicine is prescribed, we follow medicine, we take medicine as prescribed by the doctor, as on the label of the medicine, right? We cannot take on our own and then think that we'll be cured, or if we are getting cured and then we think, okay, now I'll stop without completing the full course. So that is very, very important, that we have to take the full course. Oops, Anandini Mataji is on. Okay. Yeah, so I was talking of doctors and the doctors. Anandini Gopika Mataji, would you like to say something? I know sorry, you got unmuted. Okay. So the goal is to develop love of Godhead, and we see from these wonderful disciples, the three couples of who went to London, how they took Srila Prabhupada's instructions to the heart, even though they were struggling, but they never left their bhajan kriya. They never left the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. And while enduring all the troubles in London, they're enthusiastically, patiently, and with full determination marching forward. And then we see how Krishna plays his magic, right? Where, like we say, if we are sincere, then yes, the three Bhagavats, right? The Granth Bhagavat, which is Srimad Bhagavatam and all these holy scriptures, the Sant Bhagavat, which are pure devotees of the Lord, Acharyas, and then the Panth Bhagavat. Panth is what comes in your path, as you perform devotional service. So when you're sincere, then Krishna orchestrates the Panth, the path, right? So you will see unexpectedly things happening in your life. You will see, people coming into your life whom you never expected, or people coming in and saying something that you never expected. So those are the aha moments that we all have, and that is basically the Lord's orchestration in the background, because nothing in this world moves or happens without the Lord's ultimate will and sanction. So we should always remember that whatever is coming in our life has been sanctioned. It is lovingly passing through the eyes of the Lord, and He is sanctioning what is happening to us. So whether it is good or bad, apparently bad also is ultimately sanctioned by the Lord. So it is for our purification. So that should be the mood, and that is what we see here, that these three devotee couples, how they came in touch with George Harrison, and then how George Harrison was so inspired to do this recording after hearing Srila Prabhupada's melody, chanting of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Okay, wonderful. Simply wonderful, as always, every day. Hare Krishna. Okay, anybody else would like to say anything?
We are good, Prabhu, today. You covered everything. Thank you, Hare Krishna. And one thing, like as you said, even Amarendra Prabhu, when we met, right, we went to Columbus. The good thing we have seen, like the love of all the four brothers, like Bharat, Shatrughan, Lakshman, Ram, right? So that is a good inspiration for all of us. Because people always say, oh, this ancient story, ancient this, right? They use the word ancient, but it doesn't matter ancient or whatever, right? It is like yoga, and yoga, it comes and goes, but the learning is important. So that's what he given a message. Though he's MBA, IIT and everything, but he's also going through the concept of book, either it is Ramayana, Mahabharata, everything, The thing is that calm is bhav. In what bhav we worship the God, or we remember the God, or we chant the God. That is very, very important. So that is why Srila Prabhupada also made it happen in Western world, where there is no Krishna bhav, right? So that brought up a lot of things in our mind to practice.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yes. Yeah, all the different yugas, different scriptures, but yeah, the message is the same: how to develop love of God. And yes, we can take inspiration. Again, like we were saying the other day, our minds needs varieties, and we have so many varieties of scriptures, varieties of devotees. We can always read different pastimes, different leelas from Ramayana or from Mahabharata or from Krishna Leela and from Srimad Bhagavatam. And yeah, there's so much to learn. It is infinite, right? That's why we say the Lord and His glories and His devotees, they're all unlimited. Every day, I'm amazed myself. When we read, keep reading, and we keep speaking, it just feels like we are hearing from so many, and we hear from so many Maharajas, so many Vaishnavas, just the literature, the experiences, the pastimes are just so vast. Like you keep on hearing and hearing and hearing, and every day you hear something new. And sometimes, even if you hear something that you've heard, it just gives newer and newer and newer realizations, right? So that's where what Ananta Shesh and Balaramji says, that even with unlimited mouths, you can keep on glorifying the Lord. You can use the whole water of the ocean as ink. You can use all the paper. All the trees can become paper, and still we will not be done with glorifying the Lord, His glories and His devotees' glories, and all these wonderful pastimes. So there's so much to learn, so much to keep on hearing, keep on. Like we said, Shravanam is the most important. First of all, we have to hear, not just hear, but hear attentively. But when you hear attentively, then that message actually stays in the heart. And again, by Lord's mercy, by Acharya's mercy, someday, that will fructify. But yeah, our goal should be to see one thing that we can actually apply in our lives every day, or at least every week, or at least every month, something that, we heard that really resonated with us, and how are we applying that in our lives? Because that is what is most important. Not just memorizing shastras, memorizing shlokas, that is good. But the ultimate is, yes, how are we applying that in our lives? Because, yes, like Prabhupada is saying, wherever we are, we can practice bhakti. It doesn't matter that we have to give up our ashram, sthana sthita. But in our ashram, how are we applying those learnings? So that should be the mood. So again, as Grihasthas, again, Prabhupada has said clearly that for us, yes, we should chant, we should read, we should do deity worship at our home, and we should take prasadam. At least these 4 things we can easily do every single day. And if we just keep doing that day after day after day after day consistently, then yes, we will see that we will make progress on the spiritual path. Okay, thank you so much for reminding us of that wonderful pastime from Ramayana, the love of the brothers for Sri Ram. Hare Krishna. All right, thank you, dear devotees. We'll end here for today. Thank you for your kind association. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta koti vaishnavrinda ki jai. Jai Guru Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Jai Shri Radhe Shyam. Nitai Gaur. Hari Hari Bol.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Have a great day.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.